Delighted to say we've got Pat Spillane back. Pat, how are you getting on?
Very well. Never a dull moment. Loads of club championship action at the moment. There's loads of GAA to talk about, to watch. Great. I'm loving it.
I love always finding out about how many games of sport that you've watched over the weekend. So what was the tally this weekend?
This weekend, my head was fried because, you had the Irish soccer team, you had the women's rugby team, you had the golf, you had the British Masters golf from Wentworth, you had... it was non-stop. It was non-stop. Like yesterday now, and sorry, like for the last 3 weeks, I would have had the Vuelta, El Spanish, the cycle race.
Oh, yeah.
And I would spend the 3 hours that they'd be live. I'd watch the 3 hours, but I'm intrigued. I love all sports because I love the tactics of the various sports and what makes one sport different from the next. The Vuelta is very interesting because I love the tactics of cycling and the heroics of like some of the mountain stages were horrific, and just learning about the history of Spain and the towns and villages they passed through. So now today, I'll get the 3 hours of the World Athletics Championship, which is great viewing. I swear. And I look at, like, sometimes I look at sport and I'm thinking of my time as an analyst, and I look at a lot of the changes that are taking place nowadays, and I just feel, in some instances, the idea of interviewing, this latest trend over the last number of years, the idea of interviewing a player after a game or an athlete after they finish last, I just don't get it. I don't think I think particularly, I see... Sky Sport obviously do it, and the Sunday Game have followed, so you have to interview a player. And so suddenly you have fairly harmless interviews, no insight, and you have then the panelists asking questions. They're not supposed to be asking questions. They're there to offer opinions. And then I feel sorry for David Gillick. A lot of the times this week he's in Tokyo and he's interviewing some poor athlete that has finished last or second last, failed to qualify, and I just think it's hard. I think it's, I don't know. Anyway, that's my take. And I looked at, I was watching the horse racing over the weekend. Like, I just see about analysts. I just think the role of analysts, the way we've gone in terms of analysing sport, and I just think it's gone very, very harmless, very PC, very generic. There's no crack of fun in the analysis. I just think in terms of the smaller sports, that an awful lot of the analysts are just cheerleaders for the sports. Like, I look at the horse racing, in fairness, they're brilliant. Like, they're very sharp, all the horse racing analysts, and they're very good, like, they're very knowledgeable. But they're all connected to the betting companies, to trainers, to owners, and there's a bit of a cheerleading status. So, I start to hark back to the days when you had a bit of fun in analysis and a bit of honesty and a bit of controversy and a bit of arguments. And just at the moment, I just see, like, when I see analysis on the various sports, I start to switch off, or I turn down the volume because there's nothing to see.
Yeah, that's probably part of the problem, that the analysis isn't as good anymore. Because I remember arguing with someone in the Sunday Game production team about, they were complaining about the access to players, and I was sort of thinking, but sure, who cares? Nobody. Like, it's the worst thing ever. Like, it's the worst 30 seconds, you getting the player to not say anything after a match. Get to the stuff that we want to see, but they don't have that anymore.
No, you're right. I mean, and I'm not saying that the analysis in the olden days was better than this, but it was better TV entertainment. But I talk about the fast food model, and when you're hungry, if you go to a fast food restaurant for a burger, you'll get efficient service, you'll get high quality burger, and the burger will satisfy your appetite, and it ticks all the boxes. But an hour after, you're hungry again. Yeah. And there's a bit of an element of that in sports analysis now. Like, you watch all the analysis, and like you said, when you've seen one, you've seen them all. The studio is brilliant. The men and women speak eloquently. They make excellent points. The graphics are brilliant. And then you ask a question, and you say a couple of hours later, and you said, "Well, what did they say today in the analysis?" And you say, Geez, I don't know what they said. It's a bit like the burger, and in the olden days, you knew what Dunphy had said, or you knew what Hook had said, or you knew what Brawley had said, and you were talking about it for the rest of the week. Anyway, that's my rant over.
Yeah.
I watched the sport, but the analysis the analysis no longer equals the quality of some of the sport I'm watching.
Is there any sport, because you do watch a lot of sport, that are doing it well? Like I see in America now, there's a trend that a lot of the TV stations are hiring podcasters in to give analysis. Pat, I'm getting excited. We're usually about 10 years behind America, but in 10 years' time, you could see my face plastered all over TV.
Yeah, but I think podcast is the way to go. And isn't it one of the YouTubers is now involved in the transmission of, got the rights for the Bundesliga in England? And that's the way to go. Podcast is up to date. It's a bit of crack. It's a bit of fun. It connects with the younger generation. But then you look at American sport, and like you look at the American TV networks, whether it's sport, whether it's politics. In American TV networks, they still, like, the older person is still regarded as good, and as long as you're delivering, whether you're 70 or 75, you're still employed. Whereas in this rush for inclusivity in Ireland, that we had to tick all the boxes, and you got rid of the older cohort of analysts, and so instead of practicing inclusivity, by getting rid of the older people, you were actually practicing exclusivity, So, I would find that analysis on American sports shows is more entertainment. And look, bottom line is, you watch a TV program, you listen to a podcast, you want to be, obviously you want to learn stuff, but you want to be entertained. You have to, these podcasts are released from the pressure and the bad news of the everyday life. So that's what this podcast we'll have a bit of crack, we'll have a bit of fun, we'll be honest in order, but we won't be PC, we won't be ticking boxes, and we won't be cheerleading for whatever sport we're talking about.
You were being honest in your column that I read on the Irish Independent today. The headline: Ger Brennan's high-profile Dublin coaching team has a big flaw. And I think you're pointing out that Ger Brennan, in charge of Dublin now, has brought in Dean Rock, Dennis Bastick, Stephen Cluxton, all high-profile players, but you're noticing that not a lot of coaching experience. Yes,
and you notice now, and after last night with Declan Bonner appointed as Fermanagh manager, now every football county in Ireland have their managers in situ. And while an awful lot of people are seeing the importance of having the right manager in the place, an awful lot of county boards or managers now, the key seems to be with the top coaches. And I know, when we talk about Jack O'Connor's success in Kerry this year, what he's achieved in his third coming, to win an All-Ireland in the third time he's been managing, but to achieve it under new rules. But he achieved an All-Ireland success with a brand new management team, because his old management team from last year were gone. And when Jack assembled his management team, the management team was very focused on getting in top coaches, and he got in, obviously, Kieran Donaghy from Galway, one of the top coaches in the business, but he looked at top coaches in Kerry, and he got James Costello, who'd been involved with the Clare senior football team, he got Pam McCarthy, a young coach in Kerry, he got Aidan McArdle, so he assembled good coaches around him. And you look at all the successful teams, whether it is the Limerick hurlers who dominated hurling for years. I mean, the key is, obviously, John Kiley is a brilliant manager and a brilliant CEO. But the key to his success was Paul Kinnerk as coach, who he brought in from Clare. Armagh were no different from 2 years ago when they won the All-Ireland, and last year when they won the All-Ireland. I mean, he brought in Kieran Donaghy from Kerry, and he brought in Conleth Gilligan from Derry, and those coaches were probably the missing pieces of the jigsaw. So at the moment, I'm looking at the Dublin setup, and legends of the game, but the lads have very little experience at coaching. So it will be interesting to see whether Ger Brennan, and he's a shrewd buy, and has achieved great success with Louth, but I'm sure they will have to add coaching expertise, because I look at all the counties and the good young coaches are being snapped up. I see now Sligo, for example, who have a new management team in place, and they have a brilliant management team, but they have a giant manager with Eamon O'Hara and Desi Sly, but they have assembled also the top coaches from Sligo club football, and they've looked to Donegal, to McGee, to Neil McGee in Donegal, who was with the under-20s. And you look at Aaron Kernan going to Meath, you look at all those, they're looking for top coaches. And I'm surprised. Now, Ger Brennan is a shrewd buyer. I wouldn't be shocked if there will be adding fellas. I'm still intrigued because I look around and I see Kieran Donaghy is still not. He hasn't been added to any coaching setup in any county team yet. I'll be interested to see in the next couple of weeks whether he will jump on board with, because he certainly has a lot to offer. He will obviously want to come back to Kerry at some stage, but the Kerry job, and this is the unfortunate thing for a lot of the pretenders to the throne and people who, the Kerry job is Jack's for the next 2 years, so there's no vacancies in Kerry, and I don't think a lot of these boys want to serve their apprenticeship with under 20 or minors, so they'll probably, some of those fellas, and probably Kieran, will go to another county. I'd be surprised if he doesn't, but maybe he will.
Do you think Kieran wants to manage Kerry or just go in the backroom team? Because I was looking at Tomás O'Shea and wondering would they be a good dream team, but I don't know if they've ever worked together in that front.
Well, Tomás O'Shea his record is okay at under 20 level. Okay, I mean, you have to deliver an under 20 All Ireland to be considered. So he's been okay. His track record prior to that, he had little or no experience at club level. There's talk that Mark O'Shea might be involved with the Kerry Miners as manager this year. It's rumoured. So I don't know. It'll be an interesting time. But Kieran is management material. There's no doubt about it. He's management. And it's the first time ever I look around in Kerry and there's some good coaches coming through. Jack O'Shea's son, Aidan O'Shea, who was involved with Mercy Mount Hawk, that went to the All-Ireland Colleges final. He's a top level coach. He's involved with Tomás O'Shea at under 20 level, and he's one of the up and coming coaches. So anyway, yeah, it's interesting times. So now all the teams have been assembled, all the backroom teams have been assembled. So yeah, Dublin, I think there's still a couple of pieces to the jigsaw to be added.
Yeah, you're not the only one to point that out. So Philly McMahon, who's a club and county teammate, obviously, of Dean Rock, he said Dean Rock is a surprising one for me. I just wouldn't have had him as a likely candidate. I'm sure he'll work with the forwards. Like, do you think Ger Brennan has gone for the profile and work backwards? Or like Dennis Bastick does seem to have a good grasp of the game, and he said Cluxton, they have a goalkeeper coach. I think Josh Moran's his name, so yeah. Cluxton's going to be a bit more of a broader sweep across the board as well. Yeah,
it'll just be interesting. I'd be shocked if Ger Brennan doesn't bring back that Brian Fenton, that Paul Mannion. I watched Paul Mannion playing Dublin County Championship a couple of weeks ago. Geez, he was absolutely superb. Yeah. I'd be surprised if Jack McCaffrey doesn't have another go. They tell me Brian Fenton is getting married next September. That means that when he returns from his travels, there's still another 6 or 8 months, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be shocked if Brian Fenton doesn't return to the Dublin team. So, look, I wouldn't worry too much about Dublin. You know, they'll get there. Like I've said this so many times. Like, the All Ireland Championship now is so open. There's 8 to 10 teams, Dublin included, that have as good a chance as anyone of winning the All Ireland next year. It'll be the big challenge for Ger Brennan is that there's no doubt about it. It's a Dublin team that's in transition. Can he get another year out of some of those old fellas? Or on the other hand, is there some good young talent coming through in Dublin? Like I see in Kerry now, the one thing I would have said for years in Kerry, that the standard of club football in Kerry isn't great and there's no one coming through and there's a lack of... And then I look at, like this year, Jack brought through Tomás Kennedy from the under-20s. Yeah. He brought through Evan Looney. He brought through Mark O'Shea, who was a good club player but was never sort of... And I look at how they've developed as footballers. Mark O'Shea last week in the club final was absolutely towered over everyone in midfield, and it just goes to show what coaching, what being part of an inter-county setup is. And I look around the county now and I look at all the various grades, and there's some really top... Kerry mightn't be successful at under 20 and they mightn't be winning it the last couple of years at minor, and they haven't been winning at college level, but there's some really good top quality footballers coming through. Jack has a plenty talent at his disposal.
Yeah, the Mark O'Shea one really is a credit to Jack and everybody, because what was he, 27 when he comes in?
Yeah,
his debut?
and pretty much played no, I don't think he played minor or under 20. Like, was part of a successful Dr. Croak's team, but played within himself, you know, recycled. He was, but see, this is the one thing I look at, and we look at all the big changes under the new rules. If there's one person, I know the man marker has become very, very important in the new game, having a really designated specialist man marker. I know the Paul Gallivan type groundhog player that picks up the breaking ball, that's prepared to put his body on the line. He's very important. Yes, the class forward. I mean, forward play last week under the new rules, if you saw Dr. Crokes playing, and Dr. Crokes have one of the best coaches in the country, in former Kerry manager Pat O'Shea. But watch Dr. Crokes, the kick passing by Dr. Crokes into Tony Brosnan, into the space. Tony dummies to the left, turns to the right, kicks over left foot, scored 8 points. Simplicity said. But the top forward is unmarkable under the new rules. But the fourth player, who is probably even more vital than those three that I've mentioned, is the big, strong, towering midfielder, the ball winner, the fella that can win primary possession. And Kerry brought in Mark O'Shea, brought in Sean O'Brien, and Diarmuid O'Connor, superb around the middle of the field. You looked at the Gaeltacht playing Fussell last week. There's young Cathal O'Buglig, who's on the Kerry senior panel. He's a midfielder. But Aidan Walsh was towering above the rest, and he dominated that middle third, and he set up the platform for the Gaeltacht to beat Fussell. And you can talk about the magic of David Clifford, but a gunfighter needs bullets. David needs possession. David didn't get it last week because of Aidan Walsh's dominance around the middle of the field. So the importance of that big, towering ball winner at midfield under the new rules, vital.
I was looking at that Gaeltacht win, and I was like, is this the only way to limit David Clifford? Is just stop him getting more ball than you want him to get? Because you're not going to stop him when he gets the ball for the most part. I don't think they did anything in particular to quell him in that front, but maybe the ball going in and Paddy went off injured didn't help. But that's probably it, what you're saying, dominating midfield and stopping the supply game as much as possible. If
he doesn't have possession, you limit him. I mean, with all due respects, I mean, Fussell have done brilliantly to get to 2 intermediate finals in a row, but without the Cliffords, they're pretty much an ordinary team. And last week, Paddy carried an injury into the game. This is one of the, actually, two things about the game. First of all, we talked about Paddy's brilliant goal against Beaufort, the Podinka, the lob goal over the thing. And we talked about the brilliance of players playing in the moment, doing something outrageous that if it comes off, it's brilliant. But if it fails, there's egg in your face. And Paddy, what he did that day was a moment of brilliance. And I was talking about, great players play in the moment. And the one, of course, classic example I forgot from my time playing was Mikey Sheehy's lob free against Paddy Cullen in the 1978 final. I mean, it was an unbelievable touch of genius that he decided to take a quick free, took the ball and put it down the ground, kicked it over. Now, if he missed, it would be embarrassing for him. But last week, there was another one of those touches of genius. I don't know how you watched the game, but Fussell got a 13-metre free, and Emmett O'Shea, their full forward, took it. And was it just a tap over point?
Yeah.
And he went for a goal.
Yeah.
And he scored the goal. And it was, you say, if he failed, it would be embarrassing.
Yes.
But what a touch of genius. But getting back to, we were just talking about Fussell and, so dependent on the Cliffords. I mean, the split season, and we're not getting into that, but what's happening now in the split season with the club action is that there's a huge amount of matches being squeezed into a short frame of time frame, no different than the county. So you take the Kerry players. Kerry players won the All-Ireland, celebrated for a week, and the following week, less than 2 weeks after winning the All-Ireland, they were back playing club championship. And I looked at last week. So you take Diarmuid O'Connor, who's been carrying a shoulder injury all year long, injured his shoulder again at the very start of last week. He has just played 5 championship matches in a row. The county senior football championship starts this weekend, and now his club won't be playing for a couple of weeks, but it's almost certain he won't be playing county senior football championship because he'll probably be going for a shoulder operation. But I looked at Paddy played in the intermediate final last week, and Paddy, as you know, carried an injury through a lot of the inter-county season. I think it's hamstring. Paddy played last week, and if it was an inter-county match, he wouldn't have been playing because he wasn't fit to play and he was carried off. And I saw the week before in the semi-final, Sean O'Shea, who's an unbelievable warrior at county and club level. Sean played for his club in the county, Kilmare, in the county club semi-final, and he wasn't fit to play. So, and David last week, he scored 7 points, but he wasn't, he was tired and he wasn't moving freely. I'm not too sure. But the burden that's being placed on them is unbelievable. And bear in mind that the Kerry Senior Football Championship starts this weekend, and for a lot of the players, they could have matches for the next 5 weeks in a row again. It's just too many matches, too much training in a short time frame. And I just look at the inter-county players who started last November, inter-county training with Kerry, and with the club. If they go all the way, some of these fellas, they will be playing with the club up to next January to the All-Ireland club final in 13 months, which is just, I think we're flogging our top players to this.
Yeah. Can I just ask about, like, say, your allegiance to the like of East Kerry? So Paddy's got an injury. If Fossa are playing the championship semi-final or final, he's going to play. Was that the same with East Kerry? Like, will he sort of push through the pain barrier? Do they have that same allegiance coming through?
I think, in maybe, I'm not too sure, because the Cliffords are such warriors. They'll want to play every game.
Yeah.
But like the Kerry Senior Football Championship was the jewel in the crown for years. But now the club championships have started taking precedence. Now, if I wanted to explain the Kerry Senior Football Championship, which starts this coming weekend, I'd want 2 days of the podcast to explain. I mean, so there's divisional teams, which in theory is a good idea because it gives fellas from a small club join together and play in the Kerry Senior Football Championship, which they wouldn't get an opportunity from. It gives the fella from the small club a platform to perform at the highest level, and maybe Jack O'Connor will spot somebody from a small Division 5 club playing in the County Senior Championship with East Kerry or West Kerry or South Kerry. So it's good. But now I think there's too many matches. So there's now 7 districts and 9 clubs, right? So this weekend, 6 districts play off. There's 3 matches. 3 go into the last 14. 3 losers go and they play with North Kerry. But what's happening so there's going to eventually be 14 teams in the knockout stages. Yeah. 5 divisional and 9. And you look at some of those divisional teams are quite weak, but you look at East Kerry, right? And East Kerry is a classic example. East Kerry have 5 top intermediate teams. They're a superpower. If they have all their players available and are serious about it, they'll win it. They're a superpower. 5 top intermediate teams. Throw in the 2 Cliffords, and from 1 to 15, East Kerry could probably play a fellow who's played Kerry senior football in every position. That's how strong. Now they've made another super team. There was 2 districts in North Kerry, so now all the clubs in North Kerry have come under one banner. So there's a district team called North Kerry. There's 13 clubs with North Kerry, 13 clubs, all the way north of Tralee, all the way to the Shannon Estuary. There's the towns of Listowel and Ballybunnin, a huge area. And then on the other hand, so massive population, massive catchment area, 13 clubs. And then in the 14 will be Timpernoe, my own club. Timpernoe don't have a town, don't have a village, don't have a church, don't have a school, can't field underage team. Is it a level playing field? No. And I think the Inter-County Senior Kerry Championship is sort of obsolete and past the sell-by date. We don't need the competition anymore. And certainly the top inter-county players don't need it anyway. It's
interesting there because I sort of get that feeling in Kerry that they're moving away from the real growl for it. But in the north, you always hear, and just to surprise you, people in Ulster have been like, look what they do down in Kerry, that's interesting. And they're thinking about their junior clubs and wouldn't it be cool they give them the same platform. But obviously with the split season, there probably is a bit more intricacies. Can I just ask, is there are there fans? Like, is there a club feeling to it? Like, are you an East Kerry man when you're going to watch them play?
There probably is. It's still like the interest in Kerry football has never been higher. People say, like, do people get tired in Kerry of winning All Irelands? It's the 39th. No, they don't. I have never seen. This year, I never saw an All-Ireland success that was celebrated so much. But a rising tide lifts all boats. The attendances at all club matches, even the smallest club matches involving pool, is huge. And I know that Cliffords is a huge factor. But there was like last weekend they had 3 club finals in Kerry. There was a classic junior final, Premier Junior, on Saturday night in Tralee between Ballymacalligat and St. Sinans. It went to extra time and penalties. A brilliant game. That was there was 2.5, maybe 2,000 plus at the game. So there's huge interest. And when it comes to the County Senior Football Championship, and at the early stages, there's a lack of interest. But when it comes to quarterfinal and semi-final, they'll still get the big crowds.
But will there be North Kerry, East Kerry beanie hats in the crowd? Or?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, East Kerry, like I said, is a superpower. It's a huge area of population. I mean, now this new North Kerry team has 13 clubs. But then you contrast that with, say, West Kerry. So now because the Gaeltacht won intermediate in Kerry this year, they go senior next year. So that will leave the West Kerry district, which will only have 3 clubs: Castle Gregory, Auniscall and Lisbon. 3 small junior clubs. So 3 small junior clubs as part of West Kerry playing in a county senior football championship. It's not a level playing field. It's unfair. So I can see years ago I could see the reason for it, and in theory it was a great idea. I think now with so many matches and so many club competitions and the split season, and I'm not too sure is it a. And by the way, when the Kerry Senior Football Championship is over, the district championships have to play. The East Kerry district, the South Kerry, and the North Kerry final attracts 3,000 or 4,000 people.
Oh wow!
It could be played Stevens's Day. The South Kerry final will attract 2,000 to 3,000 people. East Kerry final will attract. It's mega. So if you think the season is over, forget about it.